Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the Joint Committee meeting of Parks, Recreation, Leisure Activities Committee and the Economic Development, Tourism, and Culture Development Committee. Today's meeting is to gather more information and further discuss the status of the farmers market as to what will proceed in terms of senior management's recommendation and decision that was made by senior management. So I see in the audience here today that we have, I believe, members of the vendors that have participated in the farmers market over the last number of years. I want to be the first one to say welcome. I'm glad to see that you're here. As I said at our last meeting, without the vendors, there wouldn't be a market. So, without further ado, I'll call the meeting to order. Declarations of conflict of interest. No? Approval of agenda. Okay, moved by Councillor Tart, second by Councillor McKinnon. Any business arising from the last meeting that we held, Councillor Tart or Councillor McKinnon? Yeah, I'm sorry. Yes, Councillor McAleer, are you online?
Yes, I am. And
Great.
I trust you can hear me. Oh,
Yeah, we can hear you. Thank you. So, was there any issues from the last meeting, or would you just like to proceed with the agenda as is?
Proceed as is.
Okay. So, I received a phone call from Frank Quinn. He said that they wanted to have another meeting to further discuss staff's decision to relocate the farmers market from Queen Street to Confederation Landing. I said I will go for information purposes. I do understand that there was a request to have a meeting today with the CAO and the president of the Downtown Business Association. I believe they wanted to have a meeting. We were notified about an hour and a half before. They wanted to have a meeting at 12 o'clock, which I certainly didn't approve of. We had this meeting because they were going to be here present for this meeting at 5 o'clock. So I'm not sure, Mr. Mayor, if you have anything you'd like to add to that?
Sure, I have some words. Yeah.
Go ahead.
So on the weekend, I sent Michael Russ, who is our Director of Integrated Growth, an email about getting a meeting with staff, DCI CEO Don Allen, and the President of DCI, Steve Dunn. So Mike Russ, I think, saw it this morning and sent it on because of replying to it this morning. But I sent it out Friday night. And it, as I said, it just got through the system by this morning. So we did meet. There was Don Allen.
Sorry to interrupt, Mr. Mayor, but please correct me if I'm wrong. The understanding was they were going to be here tonight.
Who was?
The CAO
Yeah.
and the president, right? Because at our last meeting, you moved the deferral because you wanted to have them present before the two committees.
Yeah.
Correct? And then when no one seconded the deferral, you left the meeting.
Correct.
Okay, so I said, fine, I'll try to be cooperative. I said, when I got a call from Mr. Quinn, I said, all right, we'll come back and have another meeting based on the fact that those two representatives would be here present at the meeting.
Yeah.
Correct?
Yeah.
So, like,
But they made a decision not to come.
well,
They weren't going to come.
But Mr. Mayor, there were, I don't know, is there a communication between either the mayor's office or the senior management with downtown business?
No.
I mean, we're here.
Yeah.
We're here. Look, we're trying to be cooperative.
Yeah.
But I mean, that's the second time in a row
Second time in the row for
that
what?
they're not here.
Yeah. Well, we did meet with them at noon. They wanted to meet with us at noon. You were invited, along with
I know, but-
other members of the committee, Councillor Matart, Councillor McKinnon.
Mr. Chair.
And Councillor McAleer couldn't get in,
Okay.
didn't get into the meeting, but yeah, the invite was sent out.
Councillor McKinnon.
I would like to state, yes, there was a meeting today. We were invited at the 11th hour, but an hour, hour and a half before the meeting. I sent a request in that we meet in council so that the meeting could be recorded, but no, the meeting, they wanted to hold it in a meeting that nothing could be recorded. So I didn't want to have any part for that, for transparency. I think councilors should be involved in these meetings involving the city, patrons, vendors, that we should be live streamed and not in a closed door meeting.
Councillor McKinnon, they did not want to come to this meeting. We offered them twice. We met at noon hour. You were invited, along with other members of this joint committee. And you
Yes, I
did
was
not come,
invited.
no.
No, I was
But
invited.
you
Yes,
sent an
you're right.
email that, no, I'm not meeting because I want it live streamed. They were not coming to this live stream meeting because that meeting that was held in the Parkdale room was not a clandestine meeting. It was a meeting where council members were invited and staff, and we showed up. The deputy mayor showed up because she represents the area. So, and we had a discussion. And I want to give you some of the information that was shared at
Well-
that meeting at noon hour.
Okay.
With transparency, I don't
Well,
think that we
trans-
should be meeting off live stream, so
Yeah.
I'm just viewing my opinion.
Transparency can be by minutes taken or live stream.
Call the meeting to order. Your point's well taken, although
I,
getting it into about an hour and a half, I mean, this is the second time.
Mr.
This is taking- I'm sorry, this is the second time this has taken place. We were, we agreed to come. This meeting was promoted, it was sent out to the community that we're going to be hosting a meeting at 5 o'clock. We're trying to do things, and I concur with Councillor McKinnon in an open and transparent forum where it's recorded and people are given an opportunity to see who's speaking, whether it's an elected official or a manager of a particular department or whatever the case may be. Mr. Mayor, with all due respect, that did not happen. So,
Meeting did
having
happen.
said
A
that,
meeting did happen.
But I'd like to comment as well, and to the mayor, and again, all due respect, but I think you're justifying the fact that they asked us to come to a meeting this afternoon, and the majority of us couldn't make it for one reason or another. We had a plan after meeting here tonight for 5 o'clock. We had a meeting last week that they didn't attend. So I feel like we're making all the efforts here to attend, and they wanted to come this afternoon, and I feel like you're justifying that they were here and ready. We weren't, but I wasn't here and ready to be here for them.
They were not coming to this evening's meeting.
Okay.
They came at the noon hour meeting. That's why I called it.
This was the scheduled one.
Yeah.
well, anyway, I wish I would have known that when I got the call from Mr. Quinn. But nonetheless, Councillor McKinnon? Sorry, Councillor McAleer?
Yes.
Just wanted to make sure you're okay there. I guess we'll turn this over to senior management to see if there's any additional information. Maybe we'll start with our manager of Parks and Recreation, Frank.
Chair Twill, yeah, so I have nothing further to add. What was put forward as the recommendation is still a recommendation from staff. And that is that council permits the downtown Charlottetown Inc. to host a farmers market at the Confederation Landing for the 2024 season.
So, no additions, no deletions.
Sorry, in the second part there, sorry. The council directs administration to develop a new parks bylaw that addresses events, park usage, and engagement requirements.
Is that the resolution that you're reading, Mr. Quinn?
That is the recommendation on the issue form that was provided to both committees last week, and I think it was made aware that this is what we were using as our guide for this evening's meeting as well.
There's no additional or deletions from the report that was given last Wednesday to the two respective committees. That is, Parks, Recreation, and Leisure Activities Committee and the Economic, Tourism, and Cultural Development Committee. There's no additions or any deletions from the report that was given last Wednesday.
Correct, Councillor Twill.
Frank?
Mr. Chair, from the meeting that was held today, is there anything documented for changes that were made today or recommendations that came today that's documentation that we can use moving forward?
From what I understand, and I stand to be corrected, and if I'm wrong, I apologize, but I don't believe that meeting was recorded.
The meeting was?
The meeting
Yeah,
today,
well,
noon hour?
it was a meeting.
I don't know what it was.
And it wasn't a public meeting. It was a meeting of staff and DCI, the CEO and the president of DCI about the relocation of the farmer's market, Mr. Chair. That's what it was about.
Were there any vendors present, Your Worship?
The vendors fall under DCI, so DCI did not invite the vendors. But first of all, let's get back to the point of what we're doing here tonight. Tonight's meeting is about relocating the farmer's market from Queen Street to Confederation Landing. Is that in your recommendation, Frank? Yes. That's what we're discussing.
But it's how we got here is the issue.
Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, no, thank you, Chair. I think I'd like to make a motion on the floor. This whole issue started back a long time ago with staff, with a letter that went with safety concerns to DCI, with the safety concerns from Protective Services that the market don't continue on Queen Street. So rather than council making this decision, I'd like to make a motion that this go back to staff to make the decision of what takes place here. Motion on the floor.
Do I have a seconder?
Well, I just have some questions, I guess. Do we have to, can I ask questions on the motion?
Just first, I'd like to get a second, or at least get it on the floor.
Well, to get it on the floor to get questions out, I'll second it.
Okay, thank you. Open up the floor for further discussion.
So, Mr. Chair, motion's on the floor. So now we want to get a history of this whole issue that was, again, explained today, Councillor McKinnon, at the meeting at noon hour. Let me just finish, Councillor
In a
McKinnon. Well, I'll let
closed
you
meeting.
finish. I'll let
In
you
a
finish.
closed door, yep.
Yeah? No, it wasn't closed door, okay? There was a meeting.
Wasn't recorded.
Staff
It wasn't
and
recorded.
elected members, Councillor McKinnon, council members do have meetings with staff and with outside organizations, whether it's recorded by that camera or minutes are taken. If you want minutes from that meeting, we will get minutes. But you had the opportunity to be at that meeting at noon hour to get her perspective as CEO, who's been there for 14 years running this operation, as we know, the Queen Street Farmers Market. A lot of sweat equity put into it, and she told us today that she agrees with the relocation. And if we don't agree with the relocation, then we have to go back to our fire services, our police services, and get them to sign up that it's going to be safe to do over the next 13 weeks. And if they don't sign off, then what do we do?
All due respect, Your Worship, when I get notification, I have a full-time job. I get notification an hour to an hour and a half previous for it.
Listen,
I can't just drop my job.
I sent the email out Friday night to Michael Russ. So don't, I was on vacation this weekend with my wife for the first time in many months. And I was on sending out emails to make sure that notification was given out. It didn't get out. So when it went out this morning, when Michael arrived into work, I can't take responsibility for that. All I can take responsibility for is that I showed up in that room at 12 o'clock. It wasn't a clandestine, secret meeting. Okay? It was not. And if that's how you're trying to portray it, then that's not correct.
I'm not saying it was a secret meeting. I just don't want to be involved in a meeting that there's no minutes or recording. If you can get me minutes, that would be great. If there's minutes to this meeting.
We need the discussion today, because you know what? DCI need some indication from us as a council that we're going forward with the farmers market this year at the relocated site down at the Confederation Landing. Now, is it a perfect site? No, it's not for everybody. But because of the safety concerns, fire and police, that changed the course of our decision-making. Now, if we want to risk people's lives in a public event and have that on your shoulder, so be it. But I'm going to take the expert advice from our police services, our fire services, to say they are the experts.
At no point in time did I say we're moving it back to Queen Street, but if we're shutting it down for the farmer's market on Sundays, what are we going to do with Victorian Christmas that's closed down for 3 consecutive days, Farm Day in the city? Any other event that we shut down?
Separate issues, because I asked that question. They will be held. Farmers' Day in the market, Farmers' Day in the city will be held. Diversity will take place, and so will the ice cities. Yes.
And we're not still putting people's lives at risk, as you call it, Mr. Mayor?
I think that the fire chief explained it very well last week. When I left the meeting, I was told that it was a question that was asked by Councillor Bernard, and if you want to go through the minutes, they're recorded, and again, he's here to explain it.
No, he
once
doesn't
again.
have to explain it again. He did say that, everything is done in different assessments, risk assessments, 13 days, or 13 Sundays, over 3 consecutive days. He explained it very well, but I just think there's still a risk. So, thank you.
Mr. Chair, wow. I mean, I don't know how we're here and why we're here, but clearly, decisions have been made. And there's valid points and arguments about safety, and I don't think that's in question here. I think the decision has been made by the senior administration to relocate. DCI is on board with that, so I'm not sure what council or here were to do to approve any of this. It's already been decided. What are we approving? I think the decision has been made. It was made prior to this meeting. I think I know there was a previous location, Founders Hall, that might have been what was in question. But if the decision can be made by senior administration, well, then what are we making the decision on?
I think that's a valid point. I've been asking that same question as well. I did question when senior management was deliberating and discussing the issue of the farmers market and as to what the status would be on Queen Street, as to whether or not it be relocated to another location. And from the outset, I was told it's an operational issue. So what I find really, I don't know, there's many adjectives that you could use to describe this situation, but what I find really troublesome is that we were told this is an operational issue. And then as we move along, push back from the community, push back from some of the vendors, now all of a sudden, we're going to get council to endorse this by form of a motion and then apparently a recommendation, a so-called recommendation to city council. And to be quite candid, I think that's truly unfair because we weren't involved from the outset. I think it's unfair. Usually what happens in these situations, when you're dealing with a decision of this magnitude, which is high profile as the farmers market, which has been very, very successful over the last number of years. I think it's gotten popular as the years have gone by. Should have been involvement. There wasn't involvement. And now, all of a sudden, we want involvement. You can't have it both ways. You can't have it both ways. Either elected officials are involved in the decision-making process from the outset, or they're not. And it's not enough to say, because to date, I personally have taken a lot of flack from residents. I've represented a constituent for 30 years who's extremely upset. And then I said to her, at the end of it, I said, do you think we made that decision? Yes, I do. I said, we didn't make the decision. So, so this is what's happening. Communications are being sent out from City Hall saying, this is what's going to happen, and council this and council that. Council nothing. Council wasn't involved from the beginning. So I don't know how you bring it's like fielding or icing a hockey team. All of a sudden, you got your starting lineup, and then as you move along, no, we're going to change the lineup and change the goaltender and change the coach and do all that, for the third period. I mean, it doesn't add up. It just doesn't add up. So, as far as the motion goes, we'll wait to see how it plays out. But Laura Lee, I didn't give you an opportunity, and I apologize. I had Frank. Is there anything that you would like to add or delete to this topic?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. There's nothing further to add or delete from the report that was presented last week.
Okay.
Mr. Chair, could I
Yes, go ahead, Councillor McAleer.
Listen, it's like, you know what, I've just found that I think like maybe, you know, a number of people, you know, around the table on this, have found it very, I wouldn't say confusing, but, like this is, I said at the last council meeting, this is a good problem. This is a situation you know, a product farm day in the city that was started, you know, over 10 years ago. It's growing into be a great success. So much of a success that it's presented the problem, like some kind of the problem, I guess, that's presenting itself that we're talking about. In the short term, I think we got to think of the event, you know, the vendors. We've got to think of the community. It's been a great event. You know, here we are talking about governance and is it city and is it DCI? Like we all have some ownership. Let's make this thing work for the vendors, for the community, for the city. And this may not be the staff have made the recommendation. DCI supports it. Let's do the relocation to Confederation Landing. It may, you know, it may not be the long-term solution. You know, it's probably not, but there's going to be some continued evolution in that downtown and the event grounds and the whole thing. But this year, this is the recommendation. I support it. I'd like to put a motion on, you know, on the floor that we, the council, you know, bless this. It's DCI's baby.
Councillor McAleer.
They've
Councillor
created it.
McAleer.
We've supported it.
Sorry to interrupt, but
Yep.
we do have a motion on the floor.
Okay.
Please continue.
Yeah. So, you know, let's take the bureaucracy and the you know, council and parks, and there's some things that we have to clean up probably, you know, in our own bylaws and some things, but, you know, time is running out. This thing needs clarity for this year's, you know, for this year's season, and I'm supporting what staff have recommended, or are recommending, you know, with some, it hasn't been without some issues getting there, but anyway, that's just my piece. Let's, you know, it's time to put a solution to this in the short term, and let the chips fall where they may in terms of you know, in terms of resolution for it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'd like to hear what the CAO has to say.
Sure, go right ahead.
Thank you. So I think we detailed in the report how we feel that events unfolded, and we do own that we didn't communicate to council back in February. So that, I apologize. We are here today with this report because members of council said this should be a council decision and it should be brought to council. We prepared the report. We were asked to come to both the committees, and we've done that. So in this report, there's two parts to that recommendation. One deals with the site, and the other deals with the need for a parks bylaw. If you pass a resolution today instructing staff to make the decision ourselves, that has to go to council. This is a committee. Committees don't direct staff. Council directs staff. So that kind of motion has to go through to council. So if we were to go to council with the first part of the resolution about Confederation Landing, council could say, yes, staff, you can make that decision. And that leads to the second part of what's being recommended about a new parks bylaw being put in place. Because one of the other pieces that we recognized in this report is we're absent of policy and standard operating procedure and bylaw that instructs us of the steps to take. So that's where we've landed with this recommendation today. So I just wanted to provide that procedurally.
Thank you, Chief Administrator Officer Elner. With all due respect, when we dealt with issues previously, issues of this magnitude, when it did come to parks and recreation venues and facilities, it always come through the standing committee. Anytime there was a substantial change, a dramatic change to any of the facilities that's mandated responsibility of the Parks and Recreation Department, we've always followed that same conventional, that same traditional rationale and logic, and that was it would proceed it through the committee process. That did not happen this time. So, you know, it's great to say, and I'm not trying to be difficult, it's great to say, well, we need a policy, we need a bylaw. We had a procedure and process that we've always followed. This is nothing new, okay? We've always did that. Frank, please correct me if I'm wrong. He's the manager, he's got a history here as well as I do. So we've always did that. That's not, like, we're not carving out new territory here. We've always done that. And in fact, one time when one of the food producers wanted to do something in front of Founders Hall, the committee said no. The council supported it. So again, you know, it's great. I'm not saying we don't need a bylaw, but we did have a process. We did have a procedure. It was fully understood. At least from where I sit, and I believe the manager will support that. So having said that, thank you for your comments.
Mr. Chair?
I'm sorry,
Just like to make another comment. You know, what I struggle with is, you know, we certainly have our fire and police divisions indicating that this is not a safe environment to continue as is. That would be very difficult to turn a blind eye to that, given that that is certainly now known and understood by all of council and residents and alike, vendors, DCI, et cetera. So therefore, we need to find a better solution. And if that better solution happens to be the Confederation Landing, and DCI is supporting that, I think what might be the unfortunate thing here is, and again, we don't know if DCI is in communication with their vendor group and is communicating with them regarding their support of that environment and whether it works for them or not. We don't know that. And again, I don't know if it's going to work for everybody or if somebody's going to be left out as a result of a move like that. But what's very difficult here, regardless of who makes the decision at the end of the day, what's very difficult here is to likely supersede the decision by our fire and police that that is the best place for that to go, given all of the information that we were given last week. That's where I feel would be the real challenge here. Now, I know there's other venues that are being held there as well that appear to be less of a risk, but nonetheless still pose probably some sort of risk that may need to be addressed and mitigated going further for those events, as indicated what we found out for the information over the last couple of days when when Chief Mamie spoke about the challenges they face downtown on Queen Street. So, I mean, I don't know if this, again, we put a motion here to get this discussion going. It sounds as if the CAO indicated that regardless, we can't do anything here. It'd have to be, something will go to council as a resolution to decide either we let the administration decide or council decides. Is that what I understood, CAO? So again, we're just pitting one after the other here of who's making the decision at the end of the day. So it's, I feel like it's a no-win situation here, but we have to do the right thing in this from a fire and safety perspective at the very least. This is what is faced with us. I don't know what else, how we can not do that. So I just, you know, it's a very tough one to be in a situation like this, but that's my thoughts on it.
I'm going to ask the committee, we do have representatives from the vendors that are here. With the committee's permission, would it be okay if one of the members of the vendors would like to say a few words and give their insight? Is everyone okay with that?
Could I just start, did you want to speak?
No, just saying, I have no problem with that.
So at today's meeting, at noon hour, the CEO of DCI, Don Allen, said that there are 85 vendors that are part of the Queen Street market, 85.
Yep.
Paying $19 per day when they're down there in Queen Street. So, yeah, look, we can get input, but at the end of the day, at the end of this session, we have to come out of here with a recommendation to relocate or not to relocate.
I appreciate that, Mr. Mayor, but my question is it okay?
Oh, yeah, you can bring up
Everybody
whatever you
okay?
wish, yeah.
Okay.
Thank you for having me here today, members of council. I don't want to speak before on behalf of all the vendors. We have some fellow vendors with me today. And I just wanted to confirm, it's unfortunate that we're here in this situation, how it came to this. I think this is something that should be.
Just a point of order. Can he just announce his name and
I'm
his
sorry.
business, just so it's for the public
I
record?
apologize.
Thank you.
Olin Penner?
Olin Penna, I'm the owner of Luther Lather Shaving Creamery. I'm a vendor in the Queen Street Market.
And how many years at the Queen Street Market?
2017.
Thank you.
It's actually grown since I've started. There's obviously vendors there before me. It's grown. It should be something that should be celebrated to see how vibrant the downtown has been. It was shocking as a vendor to hear how we got here. I would say the communication from DCI to the vendors has been a challenge through this whole process. I think there's a lot of areas that were identified that could be used as a potential market for Queen Street, Confederation Landing being one of them, which is, in my own opinion, I'm just speaking on my own, a lot better than the Founders Hall option that was taken. So I'm actually very grateful that we've got to this point on the floor where we're very close to nailing this down in a short amount of time. The key message I just want to leave with everyone here, and the key theme, is the same amount of rigor and effort that was put in behind the scenes to close this market. I expect the same energy and rigor to find a long-term solution for this market, because I do feel that the tourism, the economic vibrancy that it brings to Charlottetown is very important. And some of those long-term solutions that has been discussed before, being the Queen Street or the Queen's Wharf, as a long-term solution. I'm not saying the short-term Confederation Landing is fine, but I think from the long term, on having this market relocate to a suitable area that would really showcase Charlottetown would be around that location. And so I just want everyone to kind of keep that in mind as we move forward. This is a temporary pilot location, given the amount of time that we had to shuffle. Unfortunately, a lot of the vendors were kind of left in the dark to this, even till today. We had to send out our own survey amongst the vendors to get feedback as to what everyone wanted, because that process didn't happen with DCI. And the outcome was we have 80 to 100 vendors. We only had about 60 vendors on that poll or survey. And about 25 of them responded. A lot of them were scared to take the response, thinking that they'd be penalized, but that wasn't the case. But the majority of that survey, of the 25 respondents, 12 of them wanted to remain on Queen Street separately of DCI and apply as a market collective, which would be very challenging in itself. But the number one location outside of that was the Queen's Wharf, and Confederation Landing came third. And I just wanted to share that the vendors did have a voice, but it was to ourselves, because that process didn't happen with DCI. But I think overall, the feedback that I had from that is that everyone was excited that Confederation Landing could be an option to save this market. But this is, again, a short-term solution.
Just a question. Thank you all. You said there was a survey done. Could you, for the members of council, break down that survey in terms of preference? 1, 2, 3?
The survey was really just to give vendors their feedback. It was a simple 2-question survey. The first question being, of these 4 locations, which one would you rank from number 1 to number 4? And it was Confederation Landing, the Queen's Wharf, continue on Queen Street but without DCI, or blank, list your dream location that might be better than these. And the second question was, if you selected blank, where is it? And the answer that came up, I think 3 or 4 times, which would be the majority, was the parking lot behind the Jones Building on Terry Fox Drive, that parking lot back there. But that was the two questions. And so. Number one was stay on Queen Street. Number two was the Queen's Wharf. Number three was Confederation Landing. And the fourth was blank, which would be Terry Fox Drive.
Mr. Chair, thank you all for that. Certainly add some context from a vendor perspective, and I know you indicated you're not speaking directly for every vendor, but nonetheless, we do have some more information on how the vendors feel and how the vendors were impacted and the communications that were had or not had, and kind of where you might see yourselves. Happy to hear that there seems to be some desire to participate at Confederation Landing at the very least to get this season off the ground. And then as a council and a city, we could potentially look and work with the departments here to, look at what a long-term sustainable location might be that might work for everybody and maybe allow for expansion. There's a couple of great places noted. So anyways, thank you all for that. Appreciate you coming up.
Is there anyone else from the vendors who'd like to say a few words? Okay, please do.
Councillor Tweel, you have to be good to this woman because she owns the Fat Cat Bakery, and Lori Devine loves the cheesecake from there. So let's listen with big ears.
I'll meet with you afterwards to come up with a new recipe, if you know what I mean.
Sorry, thank you. I don't have anything prepared. My name is Kimberly Davey, and I own At Your Service Creations in partnership with Fat Cat Bakery. I've been a vendor with the downtown market now for about 11 years. I think this would be my 12th. I love the downtown market, and I just want to kind of reiterate a lot of what Olin said, that it's important that we put a lot of effort into making this, finding us a permanent place. For a lot of us, I think it comes across that people think that we're just hobby vendors, but for me, this market actually means if my kids get to eat. If I pay for my daughter's university in the fall. So it's important to us as vendors. Some are hobby vendors, of course, but a lot of us work the market circuit. I've worked with Olin at probably 100 different markets over the years, and many of the other vendors. So we know each other's names, we know each other's faces, we work together. We were extremely disappointed in the way this was handled. And I do feel that a lot of people are too nervous to speak up about it because, we don't want to lose our spot. When we first spoke out on Facebook, a lot of us were thinking maybe we weren't going to get invited back to the market for speaking out, but this is our job. That's not a hobby. This is how we make our living. And when you're just shutting us down or moving us without any kind of warning, it's scary. A lot of us have shed tears over this. There's been frustration. Unfortunately, it's also caused some pitting of vendors against vendors, arguing where they want to be, what they want to do. Can we do this without DCI? We can't do it without DCI. So there's a lot of bickering going on. I've been seeing through the vines too, and that's not what the downtown market's about. It's a wonderful environment. It always has been. It's always been one of my favorite times of the year going to that market. I think in all of the years that I've been there, I've missed one market. So I really just feel that, I agree completely with Olin that the Confederation Landing is a great spot for this year, and if it continues there, then we'll make it grow. But bouncing us around isn't going to work either because we need our customers to find us. We need to be sure that everybody knows where we're going to be, so they can find their favorite vendors, so they can get their favorite treats, so they can get their shaving cream or their jerky or whatever they come to the market for. And I think it's really important that whatever location we find, that it's open to all of the vendors. I think that was a huge hitting point for us when we found out that a lot of the food vendors couldn't go to the green in front of Founders because we're all a big family. and we'd like to stick together, and we want to keep growing, and we want to provide that environment for Charlottetown.
Well, thank you very kindly. Thank you. It was great to have that insight. Is there anyone else? Yes?
Doug Penham. I'm also part of Luther Lather. What I'd like to know is DCI, they're supposed to be representing us vendors. There's a change of scene. Everybody's caught off guard. What's going on? The person that's supposed to represent us doesn't have the decency to let us vendors know what is going on. I know some of the vendors made major purchases over the winter, and then they're left hot and dry. Oh, you guys that cook food, you're not going to be part of it. There's no electricity. Come on, what's going on here? Who is representing us? Then, oh, you're going to move down to Founders Hall. Final answer. No further discussion. Who made that? Who made that decision? If she's representing us vendors, she's completely wrong. And if she said, oh, the vendors like it, that's a blatant lie because we had no contact with her. So as far as somebody representing us, DCI, you're out to lunch. And it's proven here today with all the confusion. Like, where are they? Let's see their face. That's all I have to say.
Thank you, sir. Okay.
Councillor Twill? Could I just make a comment?
Sure.
So we had three vendors make a presentation today, and their frustration, I think we can understand where it's coming from. But I think, as Olin said, and I'm going to call it the fat cat lady, great stuff, is that the follow-up, the path forward, is that we have to build a stronger relationship between the city council, our operations, DCI, the vendors, and yes, I'm concerned about moving that location from Queen Street, but the argument was made over and over again by the persons, the experts in the field, Chief of Fire, Chief of Police, or a Deputy Chief of Police, Sean Combs. But we have an opportunity here, Mr. Chair, to look at this as a relocation for 2024 and then start the process to find a more permanent location that, as was said, location, location, location. But if you keep moving the location, then you'll lose that customer base. And you're right. To me, I don't go down there and see the vendors as hobbyists. It's a lifeblood. It's 4S catering. Take them for example, or just any of the other operations. So, I think, Mr. Chair, this is an opportunity for us to work closer with our vendors that keep the downtown farmers market vibrant, keep it very more open, and keep it something part of our community that makes it a very walkable community. But on a final point, Councillor Twill, I do agree with you. This division between how things are operated, bureaucracy, through the bureaucracy, and how we are in this council, there's been a divide. We've noticed that. And going forward, we have to be, as council members or as office of the mayor, we have to step up to say, whoa, let's work, get outside of our silos, let's work together. If there's one thing that this has shown us, that we have to work together if we want to make this a better city for people to work, play, and raise a family.
Thank you, Mayor Brown.
Yeah.
Some of us have been trying to say that for the past few months. We've been trying, sir. We've been trying to say that. This is not only this issue, there's other issues, but nonetheless, we'll get into the details at a later date. But I want to extend my sincere appreciation for the vendors to be here today. I know it's not easy getting up and speaking before council, and in some cases it's very intimidating, and I understand that. And I do appreciate the commitment that you've made, not just in recent years, but years leading up to where we're at today. As I said at our last meeting, the vendors are the market. Without the vendors, there is no market. Plain and simple. We can have management, we can have council, we can have DCI, we can have all these so-called stakeholders, but without you people, it just doesn't go. So in this whole equation, you are truly indispensable. So having said that, we still have a motion on the floor. We can go at this two ways. We can say to senior management, you made the decision, carry on, or we can pass a resolution. So that motion's on the floor. So we have to bring that to a conclusion. Councillor McKinnon, Councillor Mattard, like I said, we can state to senior management, you were involved with the inception of, all the correspondence began back in January. I understand there was an email sent back last August. We do have a chronological in our package. Would have been nice to get copies of the correspondence going back and forth, but nonetheless, I believe staff have tried their best to sum up the issues the challenging issues that we're facing, both our senior staff and downtown business. But there's so many discrepancies and disparities in how this whole thing's unfolded. But nonetheless, a motion's on the floor, moved by Councillor McKinnon. Councillor Mattart, you request to speak.
Yeah. To address, going forward, we've heard a lot here this evening. I'm very appreciative to hear the perspective from the vendors. It certainly hits home when they're talking about this is affecting their livelihood. And this market is coming soon, and we just need to make a decision. The decision, by staff and recommendation is to move to Confederation Landing, stand behind their decision to move there. What I think is a takeaway out of here is, as a result of that, we look as a council to address the future of the market and where it might be. And then, of course, looking at our parks bylaw to address some of those issues. But I think further delaying this to go to council to get votes and to figure out where we are, the management team has made a decision. It sounds like one that's based on the economics, it's based on safety, it's based on a number of things. Unfortunately, it wasn't entirely based on the vendors' input, but nonetheless, there's a representation here of that who's supporting us to move in that direction, or at least grant that. So I'm in favor of let's just move forward with the recommendation by the administration that says we found a viable spot for them, and let's get into let them down there. They need to plan. They need to know what they're doing. They need to get ready for this season, and council just doing this isn't going to help that situation.
I second that resolution.
I don't know if it's a resolution more than a statement, but.
Well, but
okay.
you got to.
Okay, I'm rescinding my, I think what the resolution was to put it, or the decision here is just council can go back to, administration can address this as moving forward.
Yeah, administration brought us here with bringing us here for the vendors for the market. So administration or staff have come up with this recommendation. So I'm suggesting that council don't make the resolution or the recommendation, that staff just proceed with how we got here today and move it as the vendors. And thank you very much for coming forward and speaking. They have spoken and said that they will accept going down to the landing, and I'll accept that, but I don't think council should be responsible for making this decision. So,
Councillor Tweedle, can I just go on a point of order?
Sure.
I think this resolution's off the floor. Councillor McAleer said he's going to move the resolution to agree with the relocation. Is that right, Councillor McAleer? I'm sorry to interrupt there, sir. it looks like this original resolution is now dropped.
I guess let's go back to the original. Like I say, the vendors are here. They just want to get moving on this, and we're bickering about what we're doing here. Let's just figure out at the end of the day. We put a motion, or the motion was on the floor to have this go to council to recommend. I think the CAO indicated, regardless
no,
of what we
no,
come out of here today,
no.
we still have to send something to council.
No, believe that, I'm sorry,
Okay,
Councilman.
I thought that's
No,
what she
I'll-
indicated.
Councilor McKinnon?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. No, the motion was since staff gave us this predicament that we're in, for staff to make the decision where the market gets moved to, not council.
And that's fine. I'm saying that right now myself. The decision isn't made. It's based on evidence based around safety and the economics and so on and so forth. So I'm saying I'm in support of the administration making the decision to move that down to Founders Hall. I think that's what Councillor McAleer is saying as well, is he not? He's saying let's just
Relocate.
relocate.
Yeah.
So that's what
Yeah.
that's what the
Yeah, no,
administration's saying.
We're on the same page, just different words. We're allowing them, but staff have put a recommendation forward to make the move. The vendors have voiced their opinion, saying that they'd be okay with going down there. So let's get this moving, let them get the decision made, but I want staff to be the ones making the decision.
Councillor Twill, we're an elected body. Like, you know, being here 30 years, right? We've been given a decision. The vendors have spoken. DCI spoke today. The president spoke today of DCI. They want to relocate. Councillor McAleer said he wants to move a motion to relocate the farmers market from Queen down to Confederation Landing. So this resolution is no longer on the floor. I want to second his resolution. Like, let us make a decision, guys. We're here to make it. Like, if we're going to leave the decisions up to the administration, like, we got a role here. It's called the pedestrian mall bylaw, and it ceased, as you know, to be effective 2017. That has to be brought back to ensure that we follow the bylaws that we've created, not us, but previous councils. So I'm just asking, let us make the decision. I move that we relocate the Queen Street Farmers Market down to Confederation Landing at the end of Great George Street. And for the next year, let's work with our police services, fire services, to find that permanent location so the Fat Cat Bakery can be at a fixed location so we know where to go every Sunday so Lori can get her cheesecake.
Mr. Mayor, would you be opposed if senior management, like as was said here earlier, senior management, I mean, they've been working on the file since January. Not to belabor the point, but any time decisions were made, and I have it right here in front of me, there was resolutions passed previously, there was agreements signed by mayors and CAOs, but, there was a process. But, here we are now. It was a different process that got us here than what had taken place in previous years.
Right.
A whole new way of doing business.
Yeah.
So would you be opposed, sir, if we just said, okay, senior staff, you arrived at that decision, just carry on. We don't need a resolution from council.
We need a resolution to confirm that we're making a relocation decision from Queen Street down to the Confederation Landing Park. And, Mr. Chair, you've been around long enough. This is a political decision, okay?
It's now political.
It is, we're right now,
Oh, okay.
we
Okay.
have a
No,
recommendation.
thank you for the clarification.
No, we have a recommendation from senior staff covering a period of time, that is to relocate. So I've asked to put a resolution on the floor, hopefully seconded by Councillor McAleer, to relocate the Queen Street Farmers Market down to Confederation Landing Park.
Did you second that, Councillor McAleer?
So I have a question So do we actually need a resolution to go to council to make the decision based on this move? Or can, as Councillor Twill said, the recommendation is brought forward by the committees and we'll say, yes, we support, we're,
By
go
the,
and
by,
go
yeah,
ahead
by,
and
the
start.
recommendation came forward
Like,
by the
the
department.
recommendation came forward and we're here to yay
carry
yay
on.
and to carry
Yeah.
on, I guess
Yeah.
would be, I don't, but if we need it officially done through a resolution and a vote by council, well, that's one thing, that's a procedure. We need to know if we need that procedure. If we don't need the procedure, I think the majority of us are saying here,
Yeah.
carry on, then that's
Yeah.
the decision to go to the Confederation Landing. I'm not trying to be difficult, I'm just, do we need another step in the process and?
Yeah.
Mr. Chair, if I may.
Yeah, please.
Well, here's the situation we find ourselves in. So a decision was made operationally. We were told, no, that's wrong. It's got to go to council. We wrote the report to go to council. Our recommendation now is pointed towards council. So we've been told this was the way that was always been done, that it comes through. So we've done that now. It has to go to council for a final decision. This committee doesn't direct staff and policy. The committees give feedback on policy, but they're not the ultimate decision makers on policy or directing staff. So that's why we have to take it through to council. If council turns around and says, we don't want to make a decision on Confederation Landing, staff are going to do that, that's an indication of a policy decision. So from that point forward, we have direction from council. We know, as staff, we will be making those decisions and develop a process accordingly. But what we also acknowledged in the report, and we did do our homework, we looked for policies and processes, and we would have included it if they existed, but they don't. So we know now that we need a bylaw and a policy and some standard operating procedures around this type of situation. So staff, unfortunately, we thought we had the answer. We were told we were wrong. We've brought it through as requested, so now we need direction from council on where to go next. Thank you.
Well, not to prolong the debate, but, since we're here, we might as well get our money's worth. Had council been involved at the outset, we could have been involved with the alternatives and what other options could have been explored. We could have asked our staff, our senior administration, for example, the engineers that we have here at City Hall. We've got 2 engineers in Public Works. We have an engineer in asset management. We could have asked them, for example, to go back down to Queen Street. This is just me talking. Maybe go back down to Queen Street with our fire chief and our police chief and say, okay, what could we do in the interim? What measures could be taken in the interim to alleviate some of the concerns that the fire chief had illustrated here at the Wednesday meeting? That's what I find personally troublesome, is that we weren't involved in that discussion and that debate. All we're involved with now is just, I don't want to be facetious, but it just seems like a rubber stamping. That's all we're doing. That's all council's doing. That's our only involvement. Yes, council should have been involved in the beginning, and then we could have been involved with some of the suggestions, some of the recommendations. We could have looked at a whole host of things, and to me, that's what I find so frustrating. That opportunity was lost. Council was not involved. So, yeah, we can involve by passing a resolution, but we were involved in terms of the decision-making process. I mean, if you come up with that kind of theory, you'd fail. You would fail. So, process, procedures, bylaws, all that kind of stuff, I've outlined, what we've done in previous years, and I'll stand by it. Committees, what is your wishes?
Councillor McAleer, is he there?
Councillor McAleer?
My God, this guy.
I don't know, Mr. Mayor.
Here. He's just, I believe he's muted himself and he's not.
Just unmute yourself there, Councillor McAleer. My heavens, jeez. I want to put a resolution on the floor to go with the relocation.
Sorry?
I want to put a resolution on the floor to go with the relocation.
You mean, had the council vote on it?
Yeah.
Are you going to vote on a council meeting?
If there's a tie, yeah.
There's not going to be a tie.
How do you know that? Anyways, I want to put a resolution on the floor.
Yeah.
Are you there, Councillor McAleer?
Mr. Mayor, that's 3 times now.
I know, you're right.
So, what would you like to do? Councillor McKinnon, Councillor Matart?
Well, I feel, like I said, if we're following the procedure of what was outlined by the CAO, regardless of how we got here, it is here to go to council for a decision. So I'm not sure, like, it didn't seem to be an alternative to that. That's what I'm hearing, unless I'm understanding that.
But they're looking for a recommendation from this joint standing committee of Economic Development, Parks and Recreation. That's why we're here today.
Mr. Mayor, can we just send this on to council without a recommendation? Can we do that? Instead of prolong the agony?
No, you need a recommendation.
Well, we can't seem to get one, so I know
Well-
you put it on the agenda for tomorrow night, so let's have the council discuss it.
Well, are we going to go with a recommendation?
Well, apparently not.
No?
So we can send it on to council for information purposes. I'll let the council decide.
Mr. Chair, in terms of procedure,
Pardon me?
in terms of procedure, you have a recommendation before you. So the committee could agree with the recommendation, send it through to council, but they can also disagree with the resolution and still send it, or the recommendation, still send it to council. But we need a decision from the committee. It's 20.1 of the procedural bylaw.
Right.
Right? That says there has to be a council report and a committee recommendation that goes through to council for a decision.
Councillor Twill, I agree with everything you've stated about this whole ordeal. I do. I said it at noon hour. If there was a better answer going back to Queen Street, that's where I want to go. But these experts in fire and police are saying, not now. Maybe we can look at something. So it's something we can work on. And
Mayor, you have to convince the other 2 members of the committee.
I know.
I don't have a vote here, sir.
I know, and that's what I'm trying to say, is that we have to make a recommendation.
We just can't send this on to council?
No.
Well, we can send it on to council, but it'll be under we're not recommending it. And I'm not in a position to say that I'm not recommending moving the farmer's market to the detriment of safety and security down on there, because that's what it'd be perceived as if I do not support moving this to council now, because it would be the committee is not recommending the move, and it'll go to council to decide whether we move or don't move. So, like I said, we're in this no-win situation. So let's just move it all forward to move to council for a recommendation to move it to, I was going to say Founders Hall, but it's not Founders Hall. Federation Landing, I'm going in circles here. We're in a no-win situation in the sense of that.
No, you're right, Councilor Bernard. It is a no-win. We've been backed into a corner here. There's nothing we can do. We can't have the market shut down. We get 85 vendors. We get 3,000 tourists coming into the city. I have no intentions of wanting to shut the market down. I just don't like where we're at and how we got here. We shouldn't be put in this position as council, but we are. The vendors have spoken. They're okay with moving it down there, so I will support your motion.
Okay, motion's on the floor? Okay, so Councillor Twill, this is an opportunity, live stream, with recording on, going forward. This is the deputy mayor, and I mentioned this today at noon hour. We need a better openness of communication between elected officials and the bureaucracy. I don't want to see this happen again, because as I said to the deputy, we are the ones with the political radar. We are the ones that are out on the street and listen to the concerns of residents and those that put something into our community. No, and this is not discrediting the bureaucracy, but there was no political radar on this. And now we know going forward, we need to have that part of the process. And Councillor Twill, I appreciate the emotion and the focus that you put on these issues. I do, I really do, because I think you brought it to a point where we have to make a decision as a council. We need to work together with the administration. We have to be. And again, I did send that, look, all of us work 7, 8 days a week. We're on the go all the time. I sent the email out Friday night. It wasn't answered until Monday morning. I can't do anything about that, Councillor McKinnon, so I apologize. But I can tell you, I was up in Mill River on my surface, sending out emails, not just to Mike Russ, but Don Allen and others to say, look, we got an opportunity here to get something done. What are we doing? So I want to say, Mr. Chair, thank you for at least carrying us through this debate.
No, Your Worship, I'm not debating that, or I'm not arguing with you that you didn't send it out. I'm just saying when we got it.
I agree.
No, I understand
Yeah.
that. Like, it's when we got it. In moving forward, I agree, council needs to have a better open communication with issues that are arising. But I would like to request that moving forward, that protective services start immediately looking at a solution for next year, or for events this fall, like the Victorian Christmas. I see another risk there. There's open flames. They have fires down there going pretty much 24/7 for 3 days. I think that would be a risk as well. So I'm just asking if that can be initiated immediately, looking forward for a plan moving forward for everybody.
I think that's an excellent recommendation, Councillor McKenna. If it's okay with you, I'd like to build on that. I mentioned earlier about our engineers. We have Scott Adams, Riley Tweel, and we also have Paul Johnson, 3 very capable engineers. I think, I don't know if they're being utilized or underutilized. I have no idea, as far as what's taking place in terms of the discussions and transactions. But I see those 3 engineers, along with our fire chief, Tim Mamie, and our police chief or deputy chief, Sean Coombs. Thanks for being here, Sean. To start the process, to look at Queen Street, for example, okay, what are the amenities? What are the infrastructure needs? What do we need to do as a city to put in place those preventative measures to make it safer, not just for the vendors, but for the people that like to go to these different events, so that we're in a position of strength as opposed to being in a position of weakness and being in a precarious situation. So if that's okay, I'd like to add that as well.
No, for sure, Mr. Chair, thank you.
Thank you.
And we see markets happening in cities all over Canada. Why should we be different and shut them down? Like, we need to be able to work something out, figure something out, find out what the solutions are here moving forward. So I'm just asking for that to be started immediately, if possible. Thank you.
No, I think that's a good recommendation. I support you.
Councillor Tweel,
Yes.
Councillor McAleer wants to speak. Councillor McAleer is trying to speak.
But if I may procedurally before that, is that a motion that you would like to make then? So the direction can come to council to expend resources in that way?
If I have to make a motion, I will. I'm not sure. Does it have to do a motion?
Yeah.
Okay, I'll
And
put
then-
that motion.
Or does it,
It's related to this matter, so I think you could probably just put all those motions in one night.
second it, okay?
Hello, Councillor Tweel?
Yep, I'm sorry, Councilor, glad you're there.
Councillor Tweel, can you hear me?
Yes, please go ahead.
No, I'm sorry. I heard pretty much everything. Had a little disconnect there, and all. Just wanted to confirm where we were with. Is there a resolution still on the floor? I was supporting wanting to put the the resolution for the relocation for this year. I gave my reasons as to why, and I'm just not sure. I know there's been I cut off there, and I'm back in. So I just wondered just what was the latest on where we're at on this discussion this evening on the motion.
I'm sorry you were cut off or unable to connect. The motion was to support the recommendation to go to Confederation Landing for 1 year. and that the Queen Street farmers market would be inactive for this year. And want to follow up Councillor Trevor McKinnon said. I think it's an excellent idea that that our fire department, fire chief, police department, senior management in the police department, and I added the 3 engineers to start the work now to see what it would take to make Queen Street a much safer venue, what it would mean in terms of infrastructure, the amenities, all resources, so that we can start that process early, and council can be involved, with information sharing and making recommendations, suggestions, beginning right away, as opposed to coming in the 11th hour. Is that okay?
Well, if that's the resolution, and I believe, is that the resolution the mayor put on the floor?
Yes, to relocate.
Yeah, I second that.
It's already
It's
seconded.
already
Councillor
second, Councilor McAleer.
Okay, thank you, pardon me.
No, that's fine. I'm glad you're glad you're with us.
I support it.
Okay, thank you.
We didn't take a vote yet.
No.
The motion's still on the floor, Mr. Chair. You know how you like to keep things on the floor.
Oh, only know too well,
So,
Mr. Mayor.
Councillor Twill, I just want to make it clear that, we've had some issues with our operations, but DCI has been working on this since 2010. No organization's perfect, but I think there's a lot of sweat equity that has been put into this, and Don Allen has been with DCI for 20 years. Councillor Twill, she started when we put the bylaw in place to create the BIA back in 2004. So I want to, again, give her credit for the work she's done. It's got a little messy here, but in the end, we're going to get a solution that I think is good in the short term and definitely will be working on the long term. But if I could just ask, Mr. Chair, with staff here, the bylaw and procedure are different than the procedural bylaw, than the pedestrian bylaw. So we need to get some clarification on some of the discussion that's been going on here today. The bylaw, which is the pedestrian.
Yeah,
No.
I think your point's well taken.
Do you know where I'm coming from
Yeah,
on
I
it?
know exactly where you're, I think what we need is a farmer's market street vending bylaw. That's what we need. So, getting started early, as Councillor McKenna pointed out, we get started earlier. And the other thing, and I'm glad we have representation from the vendors here, they need to be involved right from the get-go, okay? They play an indispensable, critical role in the market. Without the vendors, there is no market. And I want you to know, I appreciate, I go to the farmer's market, I'm there every Sunday. I get down and talk to Olin, take him away from making business deals when he should be making business deals, taken away from his work. So, look, I appreciate the vendors and what you said, that this is an opportunity for you to raise money to put your child through university. I appreciate that, I really do. That hits home. It really does. So
you're taking business from Olin when you're down there talking to him on the...
sometimes I do. He tells me to get lost. He's too busy. Anyway, so
Question.
the motion's carried.
Question. We're going to vote on it?
Yeah. Questions called? Yeah. All in favor?
Councillor McAleer? What is he?
In favor?
No,
In favor?
Okay. Vote for adjournment.
no, I just want to point out one thing. I don't know if we have to or not, but I'm going to rescind my original motion. I don't know if I have to take it off the floor officially. But I also want to thank the staff for the countless hours and what you guys have done to get us to this point. I know we got into a little bit of trouble here and it got a little heated, but I think we have a solution. We've come to a good solution for 1 year, and we'll see where we go from here. So thanks again to all the staff.